one of the things about the poverty mindset is you learn that things get finished. When you think about the massive steps you're going to take and you get overwhelmed, guess what? You get into the red state. Things that poverty does, it really makes you question your humanity, your worthiness, your value. Unfortunately, when you grow up poor and you grow up in a small place and with small things, you think that big things are the solution to your smallness. Many times we think of this is what we need to do. We need to start over. We need to reset. But I think connected to what you brought forward, we need to understand why and what led to us having to restart. If you don't figure those things out as far as the mindsets and as far as figuring, testing and looking at the attitude and see whether these attitudes are helpful to go make you succeed or not, then you're stuck in the cycle. One of the questions I had to ask myself was, how come I'm surrounded with people that still look to me to help them even though I need help? Because you know the pain of not being the one, you never want to be the one to make the ones who think they're not the ones feel like they're not the ones.
Welcome to another edition of Mindset Profits. This is an exciting one for me because a whole lot of people in the community went to the comments for a couple of episodes. One, you said you need Jabu back. Jabu is back. Welcome.
Thank you.
By popular demand. Now, the second one, why this is meaningful and close to my heart is a lot of people said, I'm 40, I'm 45. Someone said I'm 57. I have nothing and I need to start over. And a lot of people that know Jabu, he is one of these big, powerful influencers that are doing meaningful work on social media and meaningful work outside of social media as well. But even I didn't know that he had to start over at 39. Hit the reset button at 39. So welcome.
No, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. Yeah.
Actually, you suggested this. I wanted to talk about mindsets that keep people trapped, mindsets that guarantee failure. And you said people don't know this about you, that the success we see, you had to start over at 39.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that was more important to bring out? And I actually love that you did.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think many times we think of this is what we need to do. We need to start over. We need to reset. But I think connected to what you brought forward, we need to understand why and what led to us having to restart. And big part of that is mindset, right? How I got to really get into the topic of mindsets actually is because I had to start over. When I started to think about, but how come I'm at the age of 39, people, when they look at me, they think of me as this successful person. But my bank account is like, where? Gooping fit. So there was this almost like a cognitive dissonance in terms of my own experience, in terms of how people saw me and how I saw myself. And in fact, how I saw myself, it was in two ways. I knew that I'm talented. I knew that I'm hardworking. I knew that I'm smart. I knew that I've had tremendous amount of opportunities. And yet I just could not understand how come I have not been able to translate that into meaningful material financial success as well. Right? It's one thing to have public success where people come to you for advice and they think that you can be able to
got it together.
You got it together. But the experience, your own personal experience and the experience of your children and the experience of your wife is like, not.
Life is rough here.
When are we going to live this life that you're living in public? When is it going to become personal to us as well?
Yeah.
And not just to the people, to the audience that are seeing what you're doing.
I get you, man. For me, I also had to reset in my late 30s and I had lost the business, got into depression for a couple of years.
Wow.
And I was actually giving a talk with the PSA. I shared a snippet of it because I was saying for me, one thing about hitting rock bottom, because you've tasted success.
Yeah.
When you hit rock bottom, you start to discover a version of yourself that's quite uncomfortable. You start to discover who you become under pressure. And that was not a very good person for me.
Mm.
Had you tasted success before you had, and then lost money, or you got to 39 and you felt things have always been slow?
No, I had tasted success.
Mm.
I had, when I look back at my life, I mean, at the time when I was starting over, I had a house in Pretoria East
Mm.
worth a couple of millions.
Yeah.
You know, my kids were going to a private school
Mm.
and had just been told that they need to get out, kicked out,
Oh, that happened.
because I was in a situation. I found myself having to give a car back to the bank,
Ooh.
and you know, experiencing that anxiety in my house when I hear a car park, wondering, is it a sheriff? Is it somebody? Is it somebody from the municipality that is coming to give me that red letter?
And when the phone rings,
You know, when the phone rings and I see it's a 010 or 08, it was before the 087.
87.
It was 086 at the time. It was still 086, and just when they started to introduce the 010,
You feel the anxiety.
I felt anxiety. That's why I can remember the numbers. Because when that phone rang, man, there's one particular ringtone that I never want to put on my phone ever again. Because at that time,
Trauma.
it's like, yeah, it was using Android, and there was that thing. It used to be such noise, like I open the whole entire opera going. Yeah, my gosh. And I mean, it was realizing that it's not that I have not had opportunities, and I think sometimes that's what we need to be honest about ourselves. But typically, when you're having to start over, you would have had some degree of material success, but you did not have the mindset to multiply it, to sustain it, to maintain it, to make sure that it does for you what it's supposed to do for you. I was a consumer. Imali yangena, eish, yodliwa
Comes in, comes out.
it's gonna get chowed. That money gets chowed. Like from the previous episode where I spoke about, one of the things about the poverty mindset is you learn that things get finished. So when money comes in, instead of actually thinking this is how much money is going to go towards investment, towards saving. Towards
Personal
making sure-
development.
personal development, and making sure that you can create more money. Yeah, easy money.
It gets chowed.
You get chowed. You literally are on repeat. You are creating your own I blew it scenario with your own salary, with your own income from the business. So that's what happened, yes.
All right. So how was it? Because what I want to speak to is people who are there right now. And the difficult thing for them is communicating it to family that this is where we are.
Yeah.
I remember having to communicate that, girls, I'm about to take you out of that school. I can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
That was not a comfortable conversation.
No, man.
And talking to my mom about what we have to sell in her house to survive the month. Yeah, I sold the fridge and stuff. So I've got context.
The fridges, to the couches.
They're gone.
Hey, not.
Fortunately, I got to buy those things back. But
Yeah.
how was it for you having those conversations?
It was hard. For me, it was with my kids. Unfortunately for me, honestly, I don't have a lot of family support. I'm sure I didn't really share much of that, but I did grow up without the presence of my mother and my father. And they would not even understand, my mother especially would not even understand what I was explaining. So it was just basically, I had to tell my kids this is what needs to happen. And I think that's what I want to also advise is that, of course, you don't want to give your kids all the details, but don't lie to them. Don't promise them things that you're not going to be able to do, because that adds to what? To your stress and
the
it
pressure.
adds to their own anxiety as well. They can see things have changed. The fridge is no longer as full as it used to be. We all now have one car. You've just been taken out of school. And it can be embarrassing. And I think one of the difficult things in that situation is to handle the shame that comes with it. The shame of thinking to yourself. I know one of the struggles that I had in my mind was that, does it mean that the teachers were right, that I would not succeed?
Oh, you started to remember those conversations.
You start remembering those triggering conversations around, does it mean that actually I'm meant to be poor as a person because I did grow up poor? And there I was at the top. And now all of a sudden I'm crashed down. If I was not a believer in Christ, I would have thought, I would have thought, it's witchcraft.
This is witchcraft.
I would have thought this is not witchcraft. But you get to that crisis where you you having to really, like you said, you confront yourself in a way that you never had to. And it can be overwhelming. It can be shaming. It can create a lot of anxiety for you. It can make you want to withdraw. It can make you irritable. One thing I made sure I didn't want to take it out on my kids. I didn't want my kids to, when they're coming and asking me, Daddy, what about this? Instead of getting irritated, I'll sit down and explain to them, no, guys, remember I told you, I'm struggling at the moment. I'm working through a few things. I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I can't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that helped my kids as far as being able to engage with that time. I didn't have any other than that, and other than at the time, because I just got married as well. Other than my wife, I didn't have to explain myself to anyone else. Thankfully,
So that helped.
that helped. But it's not nice, that thing, having to say to the wife, hey baby, that fridge, ne? Yeah, washing machine. Ne?
We could get 3,000 for that.
We could get 3,000 for that, 5,000 for that. But I mean, in my case, it was actually more whatever things that we had extra. Thankfully, we didn't have to sell the core stuff. But there were quite a few things that I wanted to keep myself. I had this really, really nice keyboard, man, like 72 key, massive Yamaha. Hey, bro.
You'd worship on that thing.
Man, I'll be, and it used to be also a great de-stressor for me as well, and I would just sit there and just like play some sad, melancholy songs. It's a way of soothing myself, and then I was gone. Ah, man.
All right. So here's what I see, Jabu. And even in your story, once pressure hits, because we love saying I work well under pressure, but once real pressure hits, you discover how you are under some serious pressure.
Yeah.
And there's different pathways that people take.
Yeah.
There's people who under pressure, they grow. They take the positive path. They take tried and tested systems that are going to work. But there's people who under pressure become the worst versions of themselves.
Yeah.
What do you think for you, it helped you grow? And what differences do you see in these people who, when the pressure hits, they think the loan shark is a good idea. They think alcohol is a brilliant idea. They get into these addictions. They can't escape. They get into debt that significantly grows year on year, because that is one path. And pressure can lead you in that path. And then there's this other path where someone is patiently working on a system that's going to work, even if it's slow, even if it takes time.
Yeah.
But they'll stick through it.
Yeah. I think the first thing is for you to understand what are your patterns, right? Your patterns when you're under pressure, and your patterns actually in terms of how you are when things are well. All right. I think the two are crucial.
Yeah, both matter.
Both matter. In other words, in terms of the brain now, when you are having your euphoric experience and things are fun and
success is happening,
there,
who are you?
Who are you? You're gonna watch out for that person. Pay attention to the thoughts. I typically say to men, especially, I don't know why, I'd say to men, watch yourself during the month when you don't have any money. Listen to the conversations you're having with yourself. Write those down. If you are married, and listen to the conversations you're having with your wife. Listen to the plans. Observe and be curious about yourself in terms of how you are when you're engaging, when you have no money, and you're thinking of the right things you need to do when the money comes. Watch yourself as the excitement goes up and you're going towards the end of the month and the money's about to come. Start to pay attention to the shifts in the energy within yourself, right? And then as soon as the money hits, watch yourself. Be curious. Are you now becoming all of a sudden unopen to the conversation with your wife? Do you now all of a sudden start to have those ideas that I'm not going to share anything with her? Start hiding. Maybe there wasn't even an extra bonus money that you were not aware of. Now you don't want to tell her, hey, there was extra bit of money. And then all of a sudden, you're trying to control me. And then you are developing this attitude. All of those is a reflection of your coping mechanisms. It's a reflection of your patterns of under stress. How do I behave? When things are well, how do I behave? Typically when things are well, your longings come out. The things that you desire to come out. All of a sudden, you see the watch that you didn't plan for, or the pair of shoes that you didn't plan for. All of that is still relating to the fact that you are, maybe you're still needing to soothe yourself. Maybe
So
there's still a bit of healing that needs to happen.
this stuff is in you. You're just not aware of it because the money hasn't landed.
Exactly.
The money lands, you start to be aware of what's actually under the hood.
Exactly. When there are two things that happen when you are there, who comes out is the person that you've been suppressing. Right? It's the person that you've been suppressing that is that needs recognition, that needs hand clap, that needs to be important because they were ignored, that needs some kind of say, hey, listen, I'm somebody. It's the person maybe that was not seen and now wants to be seen. And that's an indication of the fact that you need to heal. There's certain mindsets that you need to develop that are helpful, that can help you to better manage yourself when things are well. And when they're not, when you're at the bottom, that's also, you got to pay attention to that. You pay attention to what comes out.
Because now you've lost a version of yourself you thought you were.
Exactly. The shame that comes, how do you handle it? Do you want to go hit the bottle? Are you scrolling aimlessly on your phone? Do you now all of a sudden, that can happen both on the top and the bottom. All of a sudden you want to call the girl. You want to use, sex as a soothing thing. Do you now all of a sudden want to go hang out with the Ice Boys so that you can feel better about yourself? But like, pay attention because it points to your gaps in terms of your growth. It points to whether or not you've matured enough to handle even the life that you have built with your skills, with your intelligence, with your abilities, with your networks. Listen and pay attention to the attitudes that you start having towards the people in your network, not just your wife, but even your friends that typically are quite supportive to you. And do you now talk to them or do you withdraw?
Got you.
I mean, you got to pay attention to those things because those point to growth areas in your life. It points to the attitudes that you need to deal with that are embedded in your trauma, probably. It speaks to the mindsets that you are lacking and that you probably have to now develop. Because if you don't figure those things out as far as the mindsets and as far as testing and looking at the attitude and see whether these attitudes are helpful to make you succeed or not, then you're stuck in the cycle. You'll continue to repeat the same cycle over and over and over and over and over again.
So for you, once you were aware and you were noticing the patterns, what did the reset button look like? What did you have to change or do?
One of the biggest reset. Are you ready for this one?
Let's go.
I needed to stop lying to myself. Like, this continues even today to be a big reset thing. Stop lying and saying things are the way that you know for sure they're not. All right. You can't tell the truth all the time because you don't know all truth, but you do know when you're lying. you know when you're lying. When you say, no, I've saved when you haven't saved. When you say, I have a certain amount of whatever, qualification, money, success, you know when you're lying. The more you lie to yourself, the more you teach your brain that it doesn't have to face reality.
Is it not the fake it till you make it philosophy running at the back of some of the people's minds?
It's one thing to be working towards something and having a belief that it'll work out and starting to behave yourself according to the person that you want to be when you get there. The way that I understand fake it till you make it, at least is from that perspective. I think whoever came up with that line, that's what they were talking to.
Yeah.
To say, start developing the mindsets, the confidences, the belief systems, the attitudes that you need.
That your next level requires.
Start developing those and stop doubting that you're going to get to that point. Like, start believing that you will get there.
Yeah.
I think faking is a bit of that
sounds
word.
A bit different.
It's very problematic for me as a word, right? And lying and saying, yes, I've done you're supposed to do, let's say you plan to every week 1 hour listen to motivational talks or work on some kind of personal development program, and come the end of the week, you lie to yourself and say, I've done it. Somebody asks you, you say, yes, I've done it. And then you start going into that belief that you've done things that you haven't done. And at some point, you start to send a very confusing message to your brain, because your brain starts to not even be able to make up the difference between your lies and the truth.
So you're basically telling yourself and telling the people around you that I've got these great habits.
Yes.
When you know you don't.
When you know you don't. You've got the great habits. You've done things that you know very well that you haven't done. That sometimes even saying that you don't, like, if I'm afraid, I want to say, yes, I am afraid. What about what? Of what? Then I go into, this is what I'm afraid of. But why? Well, maybe I'm unfamiliar with the situation. Maybe I don't have the skills. Maybe I don't have the knowledge. Maybe I don't feel I have the capacity. But why? And I keep on going. But why? Up until such point, I say, okay, now what do you need to do to overcome this fear? But if I'm saying, I'm lying, I'm saying I'm not afraid, and I'm pretending that I'm not afraid about a situation, there's a point where I stop doing what I'm supposed to do, because I have to act in line with the fact that I'm saying I'm not afraid.
Cool. So I see two things there. One, people who will want to talk to someone and say, I am afraid, I've tried, it didn't work. But the bigger fear becomes who to be vulnerable to. Because when I did step out and become vulnerable to someone, they laughed at me.
Yeah.
And that made it worse. Or they gossiped about me. They went and told a couple of people, yo, he's going through life.
Yeah, yeah.
And that made the shame and the humiliation a whole lot worse. So now it's even hard for me to be vulnerable.
And I think in terms of the restarting, it's one of the areas that you gotta also inspect who is around you. The first question you're gonna ask yourself is that, in terms of the people who are around you, out of the 5 maybe who are closest to you, is there one person that you can be absolutely honest with, vulnerable with, transparent with, without judgment? And if that happens to be not the case, the question you got to ask yourself is that, how come you are surrounded with people who you cannot be vulnerable with? The other question, that in terms of honesty, which is what I also needed to do, because that's one of the questions I had to ask myself, was, how come I'm surrounded with people that still look to me to help them, even though I need help?
You've hit rock bottom, and
yeah.
people around you expecting help.
They're still expecting help while I'm there. And I had to be honest with myself and say, oh, okay, part of it is because I presented myself for a very long time as a hero. You know, Geese the ring. So,
I'm the one.
I'm the one. I've been the one that has been offering solutions. And as a result, in my ecosystem, people find it difficult to hear my struggle, because they expect from me the language of encouragement, of inspiration, of we're going to make it. And I'm the one that leads that conversation and that leads that experience. And now that I'm there and I'm talking about these things, it's almost very difficult for them to process. And for them to process and to be in agreement with what I'm saying would mean that they're in trouble.
If the hero is down.
If the hero is down, then they're in the worst of situation. And so when you present yourself as a hero, most of the time, people are looking for heroes, and they don't want to hear about the struggles of the heroes. And it's not that they don't want, because they don't care. Most of the time it's difficult for them to handle. But then let's say it's not the issue of the hero per se. It's just people around you that are taking from you. The question then becomes, what kind of relationships have you enabled with these people? Have you been the one that always says yes to things, and then you have no? And whenever there's any kind of help that is needed, you're the first one to jump into the situation. And then back in the time when you didn't need their help, when they offered help, did you push them away and said, I don't need any help? Every time that somebody asks you, do you need help? No, I don't need any help. Every time I ask you, are you okay? No, I'm fine. Like, you never talk to people. But now that to talk to people about where you are, and honestly so, but now that you really, really, really need them to listen, and you're opening up for the first time, but it's like, well, but we moved on from that, because we learned in our relationship with you that you don't need us that way.
Get you.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that again, I put it back to me.
You.
Right.
The relationships that you've built.
Exactly.
So the two things for me were I don't trust people
Mm-hmm.
and trust being vulnerable. The second one is I don't trust my skill set in the marketplace, because when you've lost everything, you start to doubt if you're good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to doubt the stuff that you have, like the qualifications you have, that will this get me through? Is this enough? Do I have enough to go to the marketplace and be relevant?
Yeah. I think it's let's start with again with you as a person, more than your skill.
Mm.
The beating you took with the fall, you know,
Mm.
and you know how long it took you to get to the top of the mountain.
Mm.
And now that you've fallen back down to the bottom again, there is a mindset issue there. As far as after losing, do you have the energy? Can you have hope again and motivation to climb the mountain again? And you got to be honest about the fact that, sure, this is hard,
Mm.
right? Really, I mean, I don't know if I have it within me. But also remember, unlike before, like I had to say this to myself, unlike before when I started off at age 18, coming from a poor background, coming to Joburg, having done the things that I've done, and now that I'm 39, I'm not as disadvantaged as I used to be. And one of the things I needed to do before I even look at my skills, it was, what have I learned? What have I learned from the fall? What have I learned about myself? What have I learned about people? What have I learned about environment? What have I learned about just how things work? I literally sat down and I wrote a lot. As a matter of fact, there's a book that I've written that I haven't published,
Okay.
which was a mindset development book. And I realized at some point that actually this book was more for me, where I started to write down a couple of things. What are some of my methods, my systems, right? I looked at how I would just get into a company, and within 5-6 months, I get promoted. Within a year, I would get promoted again. I needed to know, what was my system? How come I could quickly,
Get that.
get that? And I started to write those things down. And one of the things that I learned about myself is that I'm an information gatherer. So if I start at a company, if I start, they would say, I would start this podcast business, I would make sure that I learn as much information about it as I possibly can, all right? And I'd gather that information, and then I would develop a system in terms of how this thing's going to work. So I'm very good at that, at gathering information, building up a system, and then try to follow that, and make sure to maximize my success.
Okay.
And I started writing down all of my methods. Started realizing certain things about myself. Okay, I'm observant. All right, communication-wise, okay, this is what I'm good at. Started writing all of those things that are an advantage for me. And then in terms of then the skills that I've got, in terms of the credibility, what are my qualifications? What are my actual skills? Computer skills, communication skills, financial skills, computer, graphic designing skills, right? I didn't have at the time. I realized, okay, it's one of the skills I need now to develop as a gap.
So these are skills that you have and skills that would be easy for you to learn.
Exactly.
That complement what you have.
Exactly. So the lowest hanging fruit. And I realized, okay, I'm very good at drawing. I'm very good with colors. So graphic design is the easiest and the next skill for me that I can be able to learn. And it's one of the businesses that I sort of started off graphic designing and started getting a bit of income because I could see this is something that's easier for me. And I think sometimes this is where the difficulty is. When you're at that point in that stage, it's not the time for you to be now. I wanna do my passion.
Passion must wait.
Passion must wait. If passion is the easiest and the fastest thing for you to make money, then do it.
Go for it.
Then you go for it, right? I'm not passionate about speaking. I'm passionate about helping people. But speaking was the easiest thing for me to make money. Does
So
that
you
make sense?
started there.
I started with speaking because it was the easiest. I've been a pastor for almost 20 years. And I've pretty much all of my life been invited in multiple places to come and speak and talk about stuff. So it's a skill that I had. It's not a passion. I'm not passionate about communicating. I communicate because I'm passionate about healing and restoring and helping people to transform. Because the more I do that, the more it helps me, right? I get a lot of help from that. And going through to the speaking profession, learning about coaching, learning about training, learning about facilitation, and
That was the lowest hanging fruit for you.
it was the lowest hanging fruit for me because it's something that I'm highly skilled in, right? But
That's what I did as well.
yeah, it was the fastest thing. And now in that space, I started to learn about my passion and my passion of healing people, my passion of helping people to transform, my passion of helping people to thrive, because that was my own frustration. And in terms of my personality, I like to share what I have. So now my passion has become my work, my vocation as a marriage counselor, as an individual counselor, as a coach.
I like that you're saying it and putting it that way, because I know one blind spot when you are there, like at rock bottom, is you know the things that you believe you're good at and passionate about, but you don't see how they will work in the short term.
Yeah,
And that blinds people into realizing that you could use some of what you have to get some momentum going and to get some money coming through.
exactly.
Survive
At least breathe.
and breathe, right? And then you do all that other stuff.
Look, that relief, it does it not. It's more than just a financial relief. It's also mental and psychological relief. When you are mentally and psychologically stressed, you cannot see a lot of things. You're not as creative as you should be. In fact, your IQ drops quite a few notches, right? And also, you don't have a lot of positive energy. You don't have the dopamine, which is the reward. You don't have endorphins, feel good. You don't have serotonin, the calming down and the peace. You don't have a lot those 7 incredible chemicals of being in a good state, a healthy state as a person. You're operating a lot in the high adrenaline, the red state, right? Operating in high anxiety. You're operating a lot in fear,
Which is a painful life.
which is a very, very painful, high stressful life. And then your brain dedicates its energy to keeping you alive. So you are in a survival mode, which means that you don't allow yourself to think outside of the box. So you're going to find a box within which you're going to keep yourself safe in. And if that box is, I must not trust anyone because everybody is untrustworthy. Now you become cynical and untrusting. Somebody comes and proposes something that could be able to help you because
They
you are
want
in the
something.
box. They want something. Why would they want to help me? And that's what I went through, by the way. I went through all of that. But at some point I had to realize where I am right now, these people don't know the Jabu that I know who got here. They're seeing the Jabu that is in front of them. And I need to figure out what is it that people, especially that you meet much later in life, what is it that they're seeing in me that is hard for me to see based on my past? That is hard for me to see based on the people that I've lived with in terms of
Jeez,
how
man,
they see me.
That is powerful. That hit me too, because I'm now remembering that there's a mentor that I got, and the way he spoke to me was with so much respect and reverence. And I was listening and thinking, what does he see that even I don't see in myself? And if you look at it, the worst thing about the shame that you're feeling, especially when in front of people, it's so heavy because you believe they can see the poverty that you're swimming in.
Yeah.
And most times they can't.
Most times they can't. And you know what? I think let's stick right there. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Shall we? Let's go into that, right? For most Black people, imposter syndrome is shaped tremendously by poverty, by lack. Because let's talk about, like you said the last time, poverty did something to you. Right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that poverty does, it really makes you question your humanity, your worthiness, your value. It makes you look down on your abilities and your skills, no matter how incredible they are. It makes you shortchange yourself, even in selling your skills in the market, right? And because you are looking at your skills and your brilliance through your own eyes and through your own experiences of survival. And you're thinking, if only I can get 10 Rand, if only I can get 100 Rand. And so you give away the best of yourself that the market is willing to pay premium But because you can't conceive that anybody will pay premium for you because you are less, you are not worthy. You are the person that was used, as it happens, most of us, most poor people would be used and exploited. And you're just grateful to get a bit more than what you were supposed to get. Right? And so now you meet someone much later, or you are at step in a place, whether it's a workplace, let's talk about the workplace, where you have this manager that believes so deeply in you, right? I remember there was this this gentleman when I was working at the purple and purple and green company.
Okay.
Yakolorum, shout out to Yakolorum. He would sit with me in coaching and say, and he would tell me about how much he believes in me and the stuff he sees. And I'd be like, this white guy is crazy. And there was nothing in my brain, in my experience, that could make sense of what he was saying. And I felt like, Mlungu,
what is
saying
this?
things about me in Joburg, in a big company. And then I'm coming from this small town. The small town mindset would not allow me to process what this guy was saying and believe it. And guess what happened?
Yeah.
He recommended me 3 months later for a leadership development program. Even though you're not supposed to, with HR, you're not supposed to be taken into promotions or any problems like that before 6 months is over.
That quickly.
They took me in. They took me in and I was in the program. And I would do things and I would get recognition. But guess what happened? 8 months later, I left the company.
Why?
I just left. The pressure of being on the, in the spotlight,
someone holding you,
and then being seen as somebody more important, somebody who has potential. I felt like, these guys are setting me up for failure. they believe in me too much, or
something is off.
Something is off, and I left. I literally left the company 8 months later.
This is going to hit a number of people because it shows that we can sabotage ourselves and walk away from good environments.
Absolutely.
From people with great intentions.
We can, because unfortunately, if your upbringing says to you, especially the people that were supposed to be there and validate you, right? Your mother's supposed to validate you. Your father's supposed to validate you. Your siblings are supposed to validate you. The environment is supposed to say, you matter as a human being by making sure that your basic things are taken care of: food, shelter, psychological well-being in terms of belonging. Many of us as Black people, we suffer a lot from that issue of belonging. We have there's a lot of trauma around being the poor cousin, and not having your parents be there for you and being raised by the grandparents, but then in their favorite grandkids and you're not the favorite, blah, blah, blah. All of those things invalidate you as a person. And unfortunately, in a foundational stage, if you can go in a bit of NLP here, if you didn't experience validation in your foundational stages as a child, it becomes a missing piece in your adult, and it's going to manifest itself hugely as an adult, where now you have learned on the other side your skills and developed and successes, and you know all of those things, and you're getting rewards for those things. But when you get rewarded, because of you have no receptors of validation, it does not create dopamine. It does not create excitement. You get the job, you're happy for a second, but then it's gone. You get the qualification, you know that you must be happy, and then you want to be happy, but as soon as you do it, what's the next thing? As soon as you achieve it, what's the next thing? What you don't realize is that you don't have receptors for validation, and therefore it doesn't give you whatever you achieve. That is not confirmation of your value. If anything, there's a point where it becomes like, but what is the point of my life, where you start to get a bit depressed, right? And so that's where the cognitive dissonance comes, and that's where imposter syndrome comes when we are now older, where even when we are being told that, hey, Dando, I'm fit, your brain is like,
the one.
But what do you mean? I'm not the one, and I can never be the one. And here's another thing, unfortunately.
Mm.
Because you know the pain of not being the one, you never want to be the one to make the ones who think they're not the ones feel like they're not the ones.
I'm gonna keep this up for the intro. It's stupid. All right, so let's wrap this part. I want to talk to the one big thing as we wrap. Your relationship with failure and disappointment, how did it change? Because what I see is someone starts over with good intentions, get some bit of momentum, but they expect things to happen at a certain speed. Things don't happen at that speed. Disappointment hits.
Yes.
And it starts to feel like I'm trying and I'm failing. When they don't see that even if you're trying, you are making progress, just not as fast as you expected.
Yes.
But that's the process that you're supposed to be going through. How did your relationship with disappointment and failure change?
One of the biggest things that changed, and I love that question so much, actually is making me think quite a bit. But one of the things that I learned, especially around my relationship with failure, is this: I should not look at what I need to achieve based on my failures. I mustn't look at it and think, okay, this is where my life is right now. I've got these massive problems. Therefore, I need a massive solution.
And I need it now.
And I need it now. So the urgency, the false urgency that failure can sometimes create, right? The false perception that sometimes failure can create in terms of what a small step means, right? Because you've been in this situation for a long time. You can imagine at the time, I'm 39 years old.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids. My daughter's got special needs. There's a house that I need to save. There's food. I'm finding myself having to make a decision between buying airtime, buying electricity, buying bread, and
do you choose?
And then putting a little bit of petrol in my car to at least move around if I have an interview. So you're having to split a 200 Rand, 50 Rand in 4 different ways, right? And that's an overwhelming experience as a person. And it can literally say to you, you need a miracle. So where's my miracle, right? So where's the crusade? I need to go get my miracle, my breakthrough.
I'm feeling your
Right?
pain.
And one of the things I actually learned was that, listen, it's better to take those small, multiple steps. It's better to see that small progress and look at your growth that you're making with those small steps that you're taking. It's better to do that every day than to be discouraged by the big step you're going to take. And here's the thing that happens. When you think about the massive steps you're going to take and you get overwhelmed, guess what? You get into the red state. Adrenaline goes high.
Stress.
Anxiety goes high. Cortisol goes high, right? These words are important, guys. Go look at them up. Cortisol, which is the stress chemicals, right? And now you're in a high stress environment. And then what happens? Then you become overwhelmed. And then what happens? Then you want to withdraw. And then there you are sleeping. Like literally, like, I'm not getting up this morning, you're sleeping.
Now that's the thing with stress and pressure and depression especially.
Yes.
Some terrible solutions look like intelligent ideas.
Right? Because it changes the way you see things, right? And then because of you're in that mindset of, I need a massive solution, guess what happened? There is a cryptocurrency solution where you can just put money in your account, account,
grow 10 times
and
in
it'll
a month.
grow 10 times in a month. And your brain is like, dude, that's what we need. We need this thing, right? And because of you cannot stay in the state you've been in for a while and you need some relief, guess what's going to happen? You convince yourself that that's what you need. And then there you go, you call the grandmother, grandma, I need the money, friends need the money. And then you put the 10,000 rands in there and guess what happened? It happens a couple of weeks later. It's also gone.
It's gone.
And now, even in a worse of situation. And I like it that you're saying that when you are in that state, some really dumb decisions
They sound
so brilliant, right? And then we can undermine the power of small steps. And that's one of the things even today. And Dando, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Listen, let me tell you the truth, right? Even today, even as I sit here with you today, I have to force myself every day to take the small steps. Every day. Every day. Looking at emails, responding to emails, looking at SMS messages, responding to messages, getting to my little studio, making those videos.
That's power, man.
You know, I'm still having to sit down and read and write, and I'm still having to do those small mundane things that are so irritating.
Because on the day they don't look big.
On the day they don't look big. But when I look at it at the end of the month, when I look at it over 6 months, I'm like, okay, this is good. And somebody will say, but how come you're not having a PA? Part of what I needed to do and to learn as a person was to do the small things. And until I felt comfortable that I know how to do the small things, I felt like if I bring in somebody into my space, it'll take that opportunity away from me.
That's how I almost lost my business, actually. I felt I had arrived at a record year, and I thought this is time to hire people. Hired 5 people, 2 executive assistants. I'm thinking now we're rolling. But what I didn't realize is because I'm not used to doing the small steps and I'm not good at them. Brought people in, I had no capacity to coach them on how to do them.
On how to do the small things.
And I didn't have time to be available to train them. So it becomes hires where you put stuff and say, guys, this is what you're supposed to do. And you're busy doing your stuff. It doesn't get done. More mistakes than when you were there. That's popping up. Now you can't trace them. You can't coach them.
And it's frustrations.
Half my revenue.
Wow.
And I lost all my retainer clients. Telling you.
Yeah. And I think that's the mistake sometimes when we hear these business gurus. They'll say, you know, you should not be doing certain things when you reach a certain level. The challenge with reaching a certain level without knowing, especially if you're starting out as a small business, it's one thing to be getting into a corporate environment. It's another if you are starting your own business and you're going to be working very closely with people that are fundamental to the base of your business, to ensuring that the foundation of your business, clients still have to be called, emails still have to be responded to, the mundane things have to be put out as far as digital marketing and social media and all those things need to be done. And they're going to be done a specific way because you've proved it and you know that this way works.
And being professional with your calendar, like the basics.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm loving, for some of you that don't know, I'm loving the WhatsApp calendar thing. Like I rely on
I haven't used that. You hooked me up.
This thing, I'm hooked on it. Because I don't have to now be going onto 100 different diaries. I can have a conversation with the client right then and there, and I can be able to book it and I can confirm it, and then it raises it automatically onto my calendar.
I saw you did that with me, and I'm thinking this is cool.
Yeah, and also I always wonder when they see this, I wonder if it makes a person think, oh, this is professional. I must take this thing seriously. But anyway, so learning the mundane, for me, I needed to do it. And I think that sometimes we want to jump into becoming the big guy, the big girl, without figuring the small things. And then you're going to be leading those people now in frustration. Because you'll be wanting them to do things that you haven't figured out. And they're thinking, but you need to give us some direction. And that's exactly what happens with many companies, with many small businesses that grow up quite well. You're doing 7 figures all of a sudden and you get the person in. But because you haven't learned to do the small things, then the business fails. And that's one of the big things I need to learn about failure is that it is okay to do the small things. Doing the small things doesn't mean that you're a failure.
It doesn't.
It doesn't mean that we're a failure. And if you think about it right now in South Africa, it's one of the challenges, right? Where graduates don't want small jobs because they see the small jobs as a failure.
And it's okay to start small.
It's okay to start small. It's okay to learn the basic things. It's okay to do the mundane things, to develop the muscle of consistency, of discipline, of seeing things from the beginning to the end and seeing that predictability and seeing that growth, as opposed to thinking, abracadabra, I do a massive thing and then the massive thing brings me the massive results. That's not typically what how life works. And unfortunately, when you grow up poor and you grow up in a small place and with small things, you think that big things are the solution to your smallness.
Jabu, you heard that so? And I guess the lesson becomes learn to be okay with starting small.
Learn to be okay with starting small.
Mm.
Learn to be okay with starting small. I mean, I've had to do it a couple of times, myself. In that going up and down. When I left the job for the 8 months, I went and I was selling insurance as a financial advisor, and it like showed me flames. And I remembered, oh, you know what? Let me go back. Let me go back to where I came from, right? And I started over back then. And yeah, I mean, same story. Within 5 months, I was manager, and then and then I was promoted again. But then when I got to the top again, guess what? I did the same thing.
Mm.
Moved on to the next company. Same thing applies.
Now.
Self-sabotage again when you get to the top.
Mm.
And this thing happened three times at least in my working life. And when I was at the bottom, I had to sit down and say to myself, actually, what has happened here? What has happened now I mentored people and I trained people that are now having to hire me.
Ooh. That is an uncomfortable reality to sit with.
Uncomfortable reality. Yes, I did leave corporate work to become a full-time pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically meant I lost almost a decade of corporate work.
Mm.
But that was not the problem. The problem was that in that time, I did start a very successful clothing business that was highly, highly, highly profitable. But at the end, I still lost 750,000 rand, 750,000 rand into that business. And then the same thing also applied with another business. So by the time I had messed up the third or the fourth business, probably had lost over 1 million rand. And then my nervous system was like, dude, are you ever going to get it right?
Sky is falling.
The sky's falling. And now I was nervous, and now I was traumatized. And I had to sit down and say, hold on a second. What happened? One of the things that I learned was that the small mindset said to me, if I start a business that is making me a lot of money, that's going to be a solution to my small money. But I didn't learn how to manage
that business.
I didn't learn how to manage business. Who starts a clothing business without realizing that there are different seasons, and when different seasons comes, you're gonna have to sell.
Are going to change.
Yeah, and you have to sell some of the stuff in summer. You're gonna have to sell them for less money in winter, or vice versa, and then that means less profit, right? And then you're still having to pay rent. You're still having to pay the people. And the lesson there was for me was that stop going on these fears that are driving you, these are fragmented, I call it fragmented mindsets, because of how you grew up. Take time and learn a little bit more about how business works, right? If you're going to do this thing again, take a bit more time and learn about how business works, as opposed to doing what I did with another business where somebody came and give me financials. I buy shares into the company. The next thing you know, there's a letter from SARS that says we owe 450. And now I'm the director. Which means I have just spent 100,000 rand to buy a 450,000 rand debt.
We need an episode on that one. I'm telling you, I need an episode on that one. All right, let's close with this. Before I get distracted, let's close with this. One of the things I've seen with people that come out of rock bottom faster is they go back to the relationships, the workplaces that they used to work with. What is the importance and relevance of not burning bridges through your career? Because
extremely important.
I want you to close with that. Warning someone who maybe it's not yet bad for them. Just manage relationships as you go through your career. You never know where you're going to need them.
The statement you've said is perfect. You never know where you're going to need them. But let's talk about why people burn bridges. Typically, people burn bridges, number one, because of maybe they imagined the day that they're going to leave because they felt ashamed. Maybe there were bad relationships.
Some hurt.
And then they develop this thing where I'm saying, the day I'm leaving, I'm going to show them. You know those videos where the people show, I won the lottery, and then they poop they poop into an office, or they go and tell their manager or whatever, and then they say, I quit. Like, we all have those fantasies, right? We always have those moments of reckoning where our humanity gets exonerated. Like, listen, Lin Nakimoto, like, I'm also a human being. And in fact, now I'm even better than you because I've got more money than you. Now, we all have those fantasies. And I'm saying to you, don't let those ways of thinking lead or influence you so much, especially when you're leaving the company. And now you end up saying the wrong things. You end up messing up everything. Because even if that person is wrong, if they go and they share whatever they share with other people that could have been helpful to you in the future, remember that person still has influence with those people. All right. And if you're thinking, I don't need you, and then you tell them whatever they're going to tell, but then remember that person has got a size, a circle. And if they're high up there, South Africa and most of African markets, they're very small markets. Once you get to a certain level, I'm sure you know this.
Yeah.
Like, we meet each other, right?
It's a small world.
Yeah, it's a very small world. All the CEOs, all of a sudden, like, oh, so this guy on TV. Now we are all on TV together. Now, like, it's a very small world. It's not a big world. And so it's very, very important for you to keep your integrity, because you never know.
Always.
Yeah. You'd rather walk away with integrity and than to want to prove that, you are nothing. And at the end of the day, you find yourself on the other side. And maybe it's not them that's going to give you the biggest contract of your life, but it's somebody that they've influenced against you because of what you've done.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much, brother. I was looking forward to this, and for good reason.
Cool.
I know you enjoyed this. Let us know in the comments. I am sure when he does come back, there's more that you want us to unpack. So I will be waiting for those comments, Mr. Jabu. Thank you.
Thanks, Ndano, my man. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, man.
Sure. See you in the next episode.